Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm so happy to be before you in the midst of Women's History Month. Isn't that great? I think we should celebrate all the wonderful women here. The most wonderful woman in the world that I know of is actually here. I'm so honored to have her. My mother, Barbara Thomas, is here. My parents are here. They'll soon be celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary, so we honor them. I am, again, Cheryl Lynn Thomas Perkins. I am the publicity chairperson for this Writers Club. This is my second year in that position, so I've been happy to promote our activities as best I can. I also must acknowledge that I just celebrated a baker's dozen number of years with my beloved, who is here for the first time participating or coming to a Writers Club event. I know he will not stand, but I'm really happy that my husband is here today. I want to honor him. And it's just so great to see. It's so great to see so many new faces, some first-timers. I've met some people at the beginning. Before the meeting started, have come from down the hill. Also have my bestie is here from Rialto too, so I'm happy that Christy's here to join us. But you know, I'm so excited, you guys can tell, to have our guest speaker. Has anyone besides me ever had a relationship with someone or an association with someone for maybe months or even years, who they never really met directly, just like talking to them on the phone or email? And you felt you knew this person, you were close to them, so I see a lot of others have had the same experience. So that's my experience with today's speaker. For the past several years, she has been the assistant director for my absolute most favorite nonprofit an organization where I volunteer, and it blesses me every year because I get to meet and interview just promising young minds, our future leaders, students. She is over the USC Black Alumni Association, so she helps with the mentoring program there, matching up alumni with students. She also plans, coordinates, executes extraordinary fundraisers every year for that association. So this, again, you can imagine, I already had that kinship. So once or twice a year, I would talk to her via email or via the telephone, again, in relation to the fundraiser or volunteering to help that group. So here's a person who works at the greatest higher learning institution in the world, my alumni, University of Southern California. So we just have all these things, all these things in common. And again, you know, so she works for my favorite program at my favorite place, and she does an excellent job. In her spare time, she's on the red carpet interviewing celebrities, going to the Oscars and the Emmys, and this is in addition to her primary work. So this is an extraordinary person who I happened to meet, finally, in person after attending last year's event. Anybody familiar with the Greystone Mansion in Los Angeles? Yes. It's a historical monument, a gigantic, wonderful mansion. So we had our fundraiser there. And it turns out that unlike this setting or most settings for major fundraisers where they're usually a large ballroom, right, with tables and everybody who's contributed and you're dressed up and you have your dinner and everybody sits together, hundreds and sometimes thousands of people together. Well, here, everyone was in a different room. So it was much more intimate. So maybe 5 or 6 tables in one room, 5 or 6 tables in another room, and all the rooms were themed. There's like a garden theme, and I'm not sure what the themes were, but one room might have been decorated with flowers, and there was a patriotic room, I know had more red, white, and blue. I happened to be assigned, maybe not accidentally, into a room that was, of course, the loveliest room in the place. It happened to be the library. Can you imagine? Was that not perfect? So there's all these beautiful books, and you know how books smell, the old books smell, those of us who love books, it smelled great. It was beautiful, beautiful cabinets and bookcases. So I literally wrote to Tensie, mind you, having not met her, not really known her except for the emails and phone calls, to let them know just it was a great event. Just how it was set up, and I said, and I was in the best room, I was in the library, and I mentioned that perhaps by next year or soon, I would have a book or have completed my book, and it would be worthy of the shelves of that library. And that's when she emailed me back and told me that she had just done what a lot of us who haven't done it yet plan to do and dream about. She had completed a book. Well, what? Tensie, I thought you were just busy handling all the USC's business. You're doing a book also. So from there, a few months later, we actually met one-on-one, and she shared with me a lot of what she's going to share with you today. So you're going to be blessed by this presentation, and I'm just so excited. She is our future. She's promising. She does a great work for the most vulnerable among us, which are for youth, and she's penned it all in a wonderful book. So she hails originally from Lewisburg, North Carolina. So I'm going to say from Lewisburg, NC to USC, all the way up here to the high D, to share her gifts with you and me, Tensie.
That was a beautiful introduction, and I hope I can live up to the hype. And I'm excited to be with you all this morning, and I'm excited to be here. And can you all hear me pretty well? Yes. Okay, excellent. As she said, I'm from North Carolina. I have been in Los Angeles for 7 years, and what brought me to the City of Angels is graduate school. So I received my master's degree from USC in higher education. Fight on, yes. Another Trojan, fight on, I love it. And before I left North Carolina, I told my family and friends at my going away party that I was going to be involved in any and everything possible within LA. And they laughed and they said, okay, Tensie, sure. I even said I was going to be a contestant on Wheel of Fortune. Well, guess who was a contestant on Wheel of Fortune? 2014, I was a contestant on Wheel of Fortune. So I've just always had a drive and an ambition to make all of my dreams and aspirations come true while also helping other people along. Before I begin my presentation, I just want to give a few thank yous. First of all, Sherilyn, thank you so incredibly much for the opportunity to have me come and speak to this beautiful and handsome group of people. We have been talking for a while and was finally able to fit. I mean, she was just attentive to details, did the press release, called me, texted me, emailed me, Tensie, do you need anything? Are you okay? Just making sure I was good. So I tremendously appreciate that. And Bob Isbell, is he here? He's sick today. Oh, he's sick? Okay, well, please send him my regards. And he was very influential as well, emailing me, sending me the invitation, the logistics. So without these two individuals, I wouldn't be here today. So thank you both. So I'm going to make my presentation interactive. I speak all the time, and I know there's a Q&A afterwards, but if there's a burning question or comment that you want to make during my presentation, by all means, please raise your hand. Let's have a discussion. But I want to get to know my audience first. How many of you have published something, whether it's a book, poetry? Hands raised. Okay, excellent. So the hands that are raised, what have you published? Have you written a book? Have you written a manuscript?
Novel. That was an action adventure, kind of like National Treasure meets the Goonies.
Okay, excellent. Congratulations.
2 children's books, 2 inspirational adult.
Oh, wow. Okay, you've written several books. Awesome.
My grandfather grew up with Jack London, and after Jack London died, he wrote a memoir about their boyhood experiences. And that manuscript languished for about 40, 50 years until it became available, copies of it became available to family members. So I edited it, and the club helped me publish it.
Nice.
So that was quite an exciting adventure.
Absolutely. Congratulations to you as well. Anybody else want to share?
You'll find 24 books on Amazon with the name DeBoard. My wife wrote those.
Oh, wow. 24. That's quite impressive. Excellent. I saw your hand.
I have one book published. There's 3 shorter stories. And then I have the first 2 of a series of 5 published.
Okay. Excellent job. Yes, sir.
Historical nonfiction.
Historical nonfiction. Excellent. Congratulations to you as well. As I'm listening to you all, I'm in awe. You were giving me inspiration. 24 books, 4 books, like everything is amazing. So congratulations to you all. How many of you want to be an author? You're already an author.
You know what?
But you want to
I want to
continue.
be like, you know.
Up there, New York Times bestseller. And you can get there. So I want to break my presentation up into different segments. And so since I'm talking to Writers Club, of course, I want to share about the writing process. So one of the things that I want to talk about is what inspired me to write. Because as writers, you have to get inspiration from somewhere. And sometimes there's writer's block. So how do you get that out? Well, when I was an undergraduate at 18, my parents always said, Tensie, you have such a compelling story, you need to write a book. I said, Mom and Dad, please. Nobody's going to want to read my book. Nobody's going to want to hear my story. So I put that off on the back burner. I was 18. Fast forward several years later when I'm 27. And every event that I would go to, I would hear the word bully. So whether it was a Hollywood event, whether it was a conference, whether it was a group of panelists, I heard the word bully. And I'm a woman of faith, so I'm excited to be here to talk to you in this church. I'm a woman of faith, my brother's a pastor. And so I said, okay, Lord, I hear you. It's time for me to tell my story. And so April of 2015, I started writing. And as I wrote, I got all of the words from my mind onto the laptop. Because sometimes people try to write structurally. Chapter 1, chapter 2. That's not going to work for you. When you want to write your story, you want to have that free reign. You want to have that creativity, that aspect of it. And so I wrote. And the words would come from my mind, and I would type it onto my computer, and I sought inspiration from everywhere. I kept my phone on me even more at all times because I would hear a song on the radio and say, ooh, this could be an interesting chapter title, or this could be something that I can include in my memoir. And so I just wrote. And for 4 months, April through about September, I wrote my manuscript. Now let me tell you how dedicated I was to my writing. Because as a writer, you have to be dedicated, you have to be intentional, and you have to set a deadline for when you want your book to be published. I have talked to many aspiring authors, and they'll say, oh yeah, I'm gonna write a book next year. Then 8 years have passed, and they've not written a book. And I'm a person of honesty. And I had a friend who said, Tensie, I want to write my book, but it's 8 years old. You don't want to write a book. Because that's an excuse. Because if you truly wanted to write a book, you would have written that book. It's been 8 years, and you haven't written a book? Well, then 3 months later, what? Her book got published. So I put a little fire up under her and said, you have to set yourself a deadline. And so that's what I did. I worked full-time at USC, as Cheryl said, for the Black Alumni Association, 8:30 to 5, Monday through Friday. I would get off work, head to my events in Hollywood, so that was an hour drive, do the red carpet interviews for about 2 hours, stay for the event, leave, go home, and then I would write. So I would get home like 11 at midnight, and I'm staying up to 1, 2 in the morning writing because I was so dedicated to my craft. I was so passionate about inspiring others. During my lunch break, when I had 1 hour, I would write. When I had a 15-minute break, I would write. Anytime I had a free moment, I would write. And that's what motivated me because I said, you know what? January 2016, that will be my deadline of when this book will be published. And I have told a few people, this is another thing, don't tell everybody what you're working on. Because when it doesn't come to fruition, then people can say, oh yeah, I knew you wouldn't do that. I knew you were just talking. Tell your closest friends, your family, those people who support you, who will hold you accountable and keep you motivated throughout the process. So that's what I did. And so my mom and dad, how's the book going? How's the book going? Mom, I wrote 20 pages a day. I wrote 10 pages a day. One day I was on a roll, I wrote 60 pages. I'm like, wow, these are my words here. And so I held myself accountable and made sure that by January 2016, this book would be published. So as I was saying earlier, I sought inspiration from everywhere. So one of my favorite hip-hop artists, Mace and P. Diddy now, but one of his songs is called Mo Money, Mo Problems. And so one of the titles of my book is called Mo Money, Mo Friends, No Money, No Friends. Because I listened to that song, and as you read my book, and hopefully you'll purchase it, I would try to buy friendships because I was bullied so bad, I just wanted a reprieve. And when I would give people money, I would have friends. When I didn't have money, I would have no friends. So I sought inspiration everywhere. I didn't know the title of my book until I was done. And I heard an interview recently with Michelle Obama, and she was saying the same thing, that her manuscript had been written, but she did not know the title of her book until it was the very end. So how many of you have ever tried to write structurally and it just doesn't work out? How was that experience?
It's just like I felt like that I had to stick to this pattern and to just conform myself to what I wanted to, and then there would be something that would like inspire me more, and then I would have to rework the entire pattern to fit around what I wanted to do.
Absolutely. Very good. Anybody else want to share? Yes, sir.
Sometimes it's like if I start with that pattern, if I go like chapters 1 through 5, and then I want to proceed to that point, then I get stuck. I'm like, okay, great, I'm stuck right there though. But I know what I want at the ending, so I kind of go backwards and kind of write all that right there. And then once I kind of have that grasp right there, and I'm thinking, okay, then just fill in the gap, and then just kind of, it's like a puzzle, just kind of just connect it together, and then that actually kind of works.
Exactly. Very good. Yes.
I'm generally a planner.
Okay.
I
Me
love
too.
outlines, I like to do that, and I started that way.
Uh-huh.
A person of faith do, and this is God inspired, so God took me out of that outline real quick because I was suffocated. I don't know how to put it, by my own structure. I
Exactly.
was suffocated.
Exactly.
I needed to just have the freedom to go where the story was going to take me. Let these characters tell me what was going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
not and I'll be surprised.
Absolutely. But that's the beauty of editing. So you can write, you can have chapters 1 through 4, 19 through 20, chapter 18 right here, and then you go back and edit it and say this chapter belongs here. Well, maybe this paragraph shouldn't go here. Maybe it should be here a little earlier. So that gives you that creativity. One of the things to be you want to be a great writer. You want to have a book that will sell. So since my book has come out, I've talked to a plethora of people. And one of my former students, he wrote a book. And I was like, why did you write a book? And he was like, I just wanted to write a book to brag and say, I wrote a book. And I was like, okay, how many copies have you sold? He sold 10. 10 copies. And I was like, no. I'm like, if you want to write a book, yeah, you can have your bragging rights, but you want to get your return back on your investment, and you want to write a book that will sell. Like you in the back, sir, you said you wanted to be like the big time, New York Times bestseller. You want that type of book. You just don't want to put a book out and say, I wrote a book, and 2 people have bought a copy of your book. You want to make sure it's of quality. And that's where good writing comes in. So writing is just like with any other sport, any other profession. You have to practice. So if you want to become a great writer, read literature of people that you think who are great. Read, reread. What was the process? What worked? What didn't work? And then read literature of people who can't write and say, ooh, this is not what I want to be a part of. Because you have to have that balance, right? And so writing is you just don't write your first draft and, oh, okay, let's send it to publication. No, you have to edit and re-edit and then find editors and then re-edit. It's all a great process. So I come from a family of educators. I was very blessed. My dad taught for 48 years English and literature. So I know from Beowulf to Shakespeare to Marcus Garvey to Malcolm, all these people that I know about because my dad instilled this in me growing up. From poetry to Robert Frost to James Weldon Johnson, all these different people. On top of that, my mother was a librarian for 38 years. So I was immersed in education in the Taylor household for my whole life. We actually have a library in my parents' house with over 700 books in there. And so writing it came naturally to me because I was surrounded by such great writers. And they were just ingrained in me. So I remember when I was a little girl, my mother had me write thank you letters. When someone would do something nice for me, she would have me write thank you letters. And that's where the writing started. So when I got to elementary school and middle school and had to submit papers, I'm like, okay, Mom and Dad, look over it. And my mom would get her red pen out and just, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm that terrible of a writer? I thought I was great. But what I appreciated was her honesty and her constructive criticism. Don't put this here. Why did you use this adjective? You need to have an adverb here. But it helped me become a great writer. And so the red pen, the ink got less and less as I got up to high school. And so they instilled the foundation in me. And they said, when you write, you want to be visual. You want to take your reader on a ride, that they can imagine it in their minds. And so it's a difference between saying, I woke up on August 25th, 1992. That's when the bullying started. Okay, that's so-so. It's kind of bland. As opposed to, on August 25th, 1992, as the sun was peeking through the windows of my bedroom and the birds were chirping so mellifluously, and I said, wow, today is the first day of kindergarten. I'm going to learn how to read, write, make friends, all of this. That sounds more intriguing than the sentence that I just proposed before you. The adjectives, I talk about how my dad cooked breakfast for me on the first day of school. So I just didn't say, oh, my dad cooked breakfast. I said, as the smell of grits, bacon, buttermilk biscuits permeated throughout the house, I knew my dad was cooking me a Southern breakfast. That grabs the reader's attention. Like, ooh, that smells good. Now I'm hungry. And oh my goodness, you want to paint a visual. You want to paint imagery for your readers, because that way they'll be more engrossed in your book to say, oh my gosh, let me keep turning the page. What's going to happen next? As opposed to, I was talking to one of my students yesterday, and she said she read a book and she could barely stay awake. She kept nodding off. That's the type of book you don't want to be a part of. So using adjectives, using imagery, using adverbs. In one of the chapters, I talked about how I would teach my stuffed animals. That was kind of a way that I dealt with the bullying that I faced. It was very cathartic for me. So I would teach my stuffed animals, but I gave them personification. I personified them. I made them come to life. So it made the reader be more intrigued of, ooh, what is she going to talk about in her class today? So you want to make it interesting. You want to make it compelling. You want to make people hang on to your every word. And I can honestly say that most of the people who have given me feedback on my book have said, oh my gosh, I read it in one night. One person said she's read my book like 6 times now already because it's so good. I've had young kids from 6 years old who've read my book to this lady who was 95 years old who knew my mom. My mom gave her my phone number and she called me to tell me how my book was so inspiring to her. And I was like, wow, 95 years old, this lady has been through so much, could tell me so much about life. And she was inspired by my story. I have about 55 reviews on Amazon. I have 4.9 out of 5 stars for the reviews that I've done. So I put time, I put effort, my sweat, my tears, I poured into this book because I wanted to be of quality. And I want all of you in here to be quality writers. You know, you want people to say, wow, read that book. You want people to recommend your book to other people. So make sure you have quality. I take it as kind of shade, but then a compliment, because I've had people say, who ghost wrote your book? I'm like, nobody. Those are my words. But they were like, wow, it's written so well. So I'm like, wow, you're trying to say I can't write? But I take it all in a compliment. But they're like, it's written so well, it just seemed like you had a ghostwriter. But no, every word in here, in my 216-page book, was written by me. And so I'm big to my students. They always want to give me excuses of why they can't do something. And I say, when you really want to do something, you find a way. And when you don't, you find an excuse. And so with me working full-time, doing my Hollywood gig and other things, I still wrote this book. And I call this book my baby. Do you know why? Because it took 9 months to make this. 9 months it took. I wrote it in 4. And then the other 5 months, I found a publisher. And then that's when the marketing component. So 9 months, I gave birth to a book. This is my baby. And I cherish her dearly. So I want to encourage you all to do that. So I had written my manuscript. I'm like, okay, I wrote my manuscript. What now? And again, my faith comes in. God is an amazing person. And so I had been doing my research, looking at publishing companies in Los Angeles. Terrible reviews, terrible. Don't go with this person. They just want to take your money. They don't care about you. So I go on LinkedIn. The first thing I see is, do you want to turn your manuscript into a book? I'm like, God, you are just too amazing. So I send out the form, I complete the form. Come to find out, my publisher, when I saw that ad, is in North Carolina. my home state. I'm like, wow, this is just too good to be true. He contacted me within 15 minutes, had a phone call, had a consultation, felt so great about him, and then I signed him as an independent publisher to publish my book. And I can say that 3 years later, my book is 3 years old, my publisher is still getting me gigs to this day to speak at different schools, to speak at different nonprofit organizations, connecting me with people. I'm in the process of turning this into a movie. So he's connecting me with people who can fund my project. So he has been truly inspirational in my journey. And so he told me what it is, what I needed to do, and he worked with me. And so for 5 months, I promoted, I branded. So before that, we had to edit. So me, I'm all about quality. And sometimes people try to save money and do that. Okay, I get it. But this was my first book. And I wanted people to know the name Tensie J. Taylor as an author, as someone who's a great writer, and someone who takes her craft seriously. And so I bit the bullet, and I got the most expensive package with the publishing company. It cost me $3,500, right? But I had editing, re-editing. He built me a whole website. He had a Facebook page for me. He did my cover design, all of that. And it was so successful that within a month, I had made my money back because of how I promoted and marketed my book. And so one of the things that he taught me is for my cover, I was just going to do a picture of just a regular picture I had taken on my cell phone. He's like, Tensie, no, you don't want to do that because the quality isn't going to look good. The resolution isn't going to be as strong. You need to hire a professional photographer. And I'm like, what? More money? Okay. So again, I had to get the best photographer. Did a photo shoot. That's another $500 that I spent. But most people are so impressed because I'm looking up. If you can see in the corner, there's like a little white light. And I'm looking up to the light like I made it. Because I made it because I was suicidal at 16. That's how low I was with the bullying that I faced. And so I wanted to have a cover that encompassed who I was. And everything is strategic. That's the purpose of marketing. I'm wearing blue. I'm wearing blue today because blue is the color for bullying. And so now that's more a reason when I give my book tours and give my speaking engagements of why blue is such a powerful cover to me. And so he was like, Tensie, you should have your font be different colors. Maybe for the terror part, put it in red, and for the triumph part, put it in gold, because you wanted it to be aesthetically pleasing. You want people to look at it because people are going to buy a book based on the cover, based on what it's about, and based on who endorses it. I said, okay, all right, you're right. His name is William. I'm like, okay, William, you're right. So this pops at the top, the bullied from terror to triumph, and then my survival story is at the bottom. And I said, I want a book that you could see this at Barnes & Noble. Like you could see this on a shelf. Because again, I've seen some books. And I'm like, no, that will definitely not make it into the bookstore. So again, you want it to be quality. One of the things that he taught me that has been so instrumental, he said, you want your book not to be a book, but a brand. Not a book, but a brand. So that any time when people think of bullying, who do they contact now? They contact me. I'm speaking in Ireland in June for anti-bully conference because somebody said, Tensie, this ties with what you're a part of, you should apply. Thousands of people applied, I was selected. And so now I'm going to be an international traveler, international speaker, talking about my topic on bullying. Write it with fervor, but write it with a brand so that you can not only impact and inspire and motivate, but you can monetize, right? Because we all want a little extra money. That doesn't hurt. So keep that in mind as well. So he wrote the book, edited, re-edited, and so he and his team, his editors, we're going back and forth. I'm a very meticulous, very picayune person. And if I'm giving you my money, I want it to be the way I want it. So something simple as, you didn't put a comma there. Okay, Tensie, let me go back and put a comma there. Why is a semicolon there? I didn't put a semicolon there. Okay, Tensie, let me go back and take the semicolon out. And so in addition to sentence structures, I can be kind of wordy sometimes when I write. So his editors will make my sentences more succinct so that the reader could truly get the essence of it. Then some of the times I was making opinion-based statements, and he's like, Tensie, you have an opinion, but you need to back this up with research. So that if someone questions you on it, you have the research to back it up. And that's what he did. I had a whole chapter in my book. My favorite puppy name was Chubby back in North Carolina, and I loved him dearly, and he passed away. And I had a whole chapter about Chubby. And he was like, Tensie, this is, a sad chapter. I'm glad you and Chubby were close. But what does this have to do with anything related in your book? Like, this has nothing. You need to take this chapter out. I'm like, no, Chubby was special. It's like, okay, I hear you. But people are going to read the story of being bullied and then just Chubby's right here? That does not align at all. And so I took it out, and that was one of the best decisions that I could have ever made, because you have to be open to the criticism. You have to be open to the critiques, because like I said, I know I can write. I know I'm a great writer. I don't say that cockily, but confidently. But if I wanted to be great, and if I wanted to be better, I had to listen to the advice of others. And so everything that the editor suggested, I noted, I made the changes to, and my book is an Amazon bestseller. And everything that he said worked. So after that, we start the marketing process. As I mentioned, he created a Facebook page for me. He got people to start following me on this Facebook page. He was connecting me with different school systems, because October is National Bullying Prevention Month. So he was giving me a head start on who to contact with to possibly come and speak to the young kids at different school systems. So he was just an angel. And he was so dedicated. Because he said, I do not want to publish this until you are 100% satisfied. Then on Christmas Day, I was texting him edits. And he was making changes on Christmas Day for me. Because he said, that's how dedicated I am to making sure your book is the way that you wish it to be. And so he was great. He and his team were very great. They reviewed it, they edited, they branded it, sent me the process. And then when he said, okay, Tensie, I'm going to send you a copy of the book. And I'll never forget, when I got the copy of this book, my first book, I cried. Because all of my hard work, my late nights, my early mornings, the times when people said I wouldn't do this, or the other times people said I wouldn't accomplish anything, this was here. I was holding it. These were my words. These were my pictures. This is my book. And one of the things, too, when I was writing it, know your audience. Know your audience. And so when I was writing this book, I knew it would have to compel to the younger people, and which is why I have pictures in my book to hold their interest. Because I said, is a sixth grader really going to sit down and want to read a 200-plus page book? Maybe not. But if I break it up with pictures, maybe that will keep their interest going. And I did. I have pictures of me playing trumpet, because I play trumpet. Pictures of me when I was 16, when I played in London, England, for Queen Elizabeth's Night, Sir Andrew, in Westminster Cathedral Hall. Pictures of me graduating from high school, my bachelor's degree, my master's degree from USC. And I'm like, I know young people, I gotta put my celebrities in there. So I have pictures of me interviewing celebrities, Miss Tina, Beyonce's mom, Tyrese, Boris and Nicole Kojo, different pictures to keep their attention garnered and to show them what can be when you believe. Because here I am, I was a small girl from this small town in North Carolina, Lewisburg, and people doubted me from the beginning. So 5 years old, then 16 years old, to being bullied so badly that I thought taking my own life was the only way out, to now at 30 years old, I'm taking selfies with Oprah. Selfies with Oprah, someone that I have idolized and wanted to meet for so long. Now I have the opportunity to do so. And so when I talk to young people, I say the importance of support and encouragement and mentorship, because there are going to be a lot of doubters. There will be a lot of naysayers, but you can't listen to that. You have to find your support system of people who would encourage you to tell you to move forward. And so the book, the editing, the re-editing, the re-editing, all of that started. And then January 26, 2016, dun, da, 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 publishing day, it came out. And on the first day, because I had promoted it so hard, I sold 138 copies of my book, just on Amazon. This doesn't include Barnes & Nobles, This doesn't include my own personal things that I was doing when I was starting to do my own book tours and speaking engagements. Just on Amazon, 138 copies. And then the momentum would build. And so when you have a book, you have to have people who will support your book. And social media is so powerful. And so friends, I would ask friends, and then sometimes I wouldn't ask friends, but they would say, hey, check out my friend Tensie Taylor's book. And then that would gain traction. And then people would post on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. I want to rewind because I forgot to say something. So I was talking about endorsements, right? So several celebrities endorsed my book. And me being a Hollywood reporter, again, never doubt yourself. All you can do is ask. And what's the worst that people can say? No, right? So I'm interviewing these celebrities, and I was talking to people, and I said, I'm writing this book, and I would really love it if I could have an endorsement from you. And I just knew they were going to say no. And they're like, sure, Tensie, what do you need? So Devon Franklin, Megan Good, Carl Anthony Payne, Jane Kennedy, and even the lady who was the editor of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, Amy Newmark, endorsed my book. And so I just asked people, and they all said yes. And so these celebrities, when they endorsed my book, then they would post on their social media pages. And they have like millions of followers. So more attention was garnered to me, to my book. Just last month in January, Miss Tina Lawson, Beyonce's mom, posted about my book on her page. She has 2 million followers. Book sales went up. Then she bought copies of my book for the kids in her nonprofit organization. Beyonce's mom was like, I read Tensie's book, and it's great. You need to read it too. I'm like, what? Miss Tina giving me an endorsement? But I put in the work. I put in the effort. I didn't let anybody try to hand anything to me. I didn't try to do it the quick way. I put in the long and dedicated way. And so as the book comes out, again, people are posting on their social media pages, and then I start to reach out to different media outlets because I have to get my story out. And so again, I went through my phone, my emails, who do I know, who can I contact? And so some of my friends worked at news stations. So when I would go back home to North Carolina, I would be on the television station. I would be on the radio station. And then I would be on podcasts. And then it became such momentum was building that not only was I reaching out to the news stations and media, but then it became so great, people then started to reach out to me. Hey, Tensie, I heard you on this podcast. Can you come be on my show? Hey, Tensie, I read your article in this newspaper. Can I come interview you? Hey, Tensie, I wrote this blog. Can I interview you? It's Women's History Month. I want you to be our Woman of the Month. Can I interview you? So I was, again, reaching out in the beginning, hustling, working hard. And then my work paid off, and people started to then reach out to me. So I've been on more than 70 media interviews. I have no publicist. I have no agent. I have Team Tensie. I do all this solo. And I've sold more than 3,000 copies of my book solo. Thank you. And so it's possible. You have to have the right support system. I was just at an event last night at LA Live, a room full of bankers and corporations and people with money. And I was telling them my story, and they were like, okay, Tensie, what can we do to help you? So once I have my script written, I have my contacts at Amazon, at Netflix, at 20th Century Fox, at Warner Brothers. They're like, okay, Tensie, we'll just wait on that script. So what can you do? So I'm turning this into a screenplay. And again, utilize your resources. One of the professors at USC has worked with Spike Lee, has worked with John Singleton. He's helping me with my screenplay. So once I have my screenplay written, I have people who will provide funding who can maybe produce a short and then a film. And I would love for this to be a TV series because unfortunately, bullying happens every day. Either you're a bully or you were bullied. And so I want to bring awareness to this topic. But that goes back to what my publisher, William, told me in the beginning. Your book is your brain. So yeah, you can write a book, but what else are you going to do with it? So I want to write this TV show. I want to write a movie. I also want to have an anti-bully song. I'm a singer. I know Grammy Award-winning singers who want to collaborate with me and work with me. I want to do an anti-bully dance. Why not, right? We don't need dance, exercise, healthy, feel good. And then now, like I said, I'm going internationally with my book. So it's all about a brand. It's all about how you market yourself and the effort that you're willing to put into it. And so, and I've done all this, and I'm 31. I have still so much ahead of me that I wish to do and wish to accomplish. And one of the things is that when someone has helped you, when you have made it, I always like to give back. And so when I wrote this book, I had no clue how to write a book. But that's thanks to Google. I Googled how to write a book. What do I do? And I researched, and I said, do I want to publish this independently, or do I want to publish this through a traditional publisher? Because me starting out, if I did it through a traditional publisher, it could take anywhere from 2 to 4 years. They could reject it, and then they have ownership of it, right? I don't want to do that. But through independent publishing, yes, I had to put the money up front, but when this becomes a movie, I have 100% ownership. When this becomes a TV show, I have 100% ownership. Because sometimes traditional publishers take anywhere from 60 to 70% of what you do. So I researched everything, and then I asked different people. And so now I love when people say, hey, Tensie, I'm writing a book, can you help me? Sure, let's go to coffee. I'll tell you my process. I'll give you ideas on how to make it successful, on how to be instrumental and powerful. So it has been quite an interesting journey, and like I'm going to talk within the next 5 minutes. That was the whole writing process, the editing, the publishing, and all of that. But my story is one of, as I mentioned earlier, August 25th, 1992, I got off a school bus number 144 at Lewisburg Elementary School, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to learn. And then as I get off the school bus, the student grabs my book bag from behind, unzips it, and throws all of my articles on the ground. So my pencils, my papers, my books, everything comes tumbling down. And at this moment, a crowd of students gathered in a circle around me. And I just knew that one person would come to my rescue, or, hey, Tensie, let me pick you up, let me help you. No, they pointed, they laughed at me. And then the bully stomped her foot and said, do something about it. That was my first day of kindergarten. And that was my first day of being bullied for the next 13 years of my life. And so for so long, from kindergarten through 12th grade, I'm petite now. So when I was younger, I was even smaller. Students bullied me for my size. They bullied me for my eyes because they're big. Students said I look like a frog. They called me names such as Geico Direct. They were so clever in their names for me, but they were failing their classes, which I found so interesting. Like, you have the time to make fun of me, but you can't put this time into your work so you can actually pass? Very mind-boggling to me. And so I didn't wear name brand clothes or shoes. And so they bullied me for that. They bullied me because the teachers liked me. And then it became physical. So then they started pushing me in lockers. They started pushing me in lockers. And then one day, in the GM locker room, one of the girls said, Tensie, open the door for me. And I said, I'm not going to open the door for you. She grabbed my arm from behind my back and twisted it and tried to break it because I wouldn't do what she said. And this kept going on, and I hated awards day because I was a stellar student, straight A student, and students just went in on me. Oh my gosh, here she goes again. She has all the awards for everybody. She never gives anybody else a chance. And then on top of that, as I'm walking up to take my award, somebody steps their foot out and tries to trip me as I'm going up on stage. I was dangled from a building, 2-story building. So all of this that I had to go through, I would pray to God every night, make it stop. I would put a picture of my sister under my bed because I thought she had normal eyes. And I say, Lord, please make my eyes like her, please. Maybe the bullying stop. Never did. And I became so low, so depressed, that as I said earlier at 16, I'm like, I have no family. I have no friends. Nobody wants to be with me. Nobody wants to play with me. Nobody wants to interact with me. What's the point of going on with life? And so I tried to take my life, and thankfully I didn't. But at that moment, I had an epiphany. And I said, I am not going to give these bullies the satisfaction of going on with their lives and me not being here, having my parents to mourn because of how they feel inside. Because as the psychologist who wrote the foreword to my book says, hurt people hurt people. And those students who bullied me were hurting. They came from broken homes. I came from a 2-parent home whose family was very educated. They didn't. I took family trips to different states. They never left home. And so they wanted to bring me down because they didn't feel good about themselves. And so that's why I'm all about motivation and empowerment and support and encouragement. Because although I was bullied at school, I was very loved at home. And when my parents read my book, they didn't have a fourth of an idea of what I had gone through. And people say, well, why didn't you tell people? I did. But then the bullying became worse. It was exacerbated because, oh, Tensie told on me, oh, I got in trouble, oh, you're really going to get it now. But why didn't you fight back? I'm like, I'm small. I was afraid. And it wasn't one-on-one, it was like 1-on-6. It was cliques of girls surrounding me in bathrooms in different locations. So when I go and I talk to different schools and my parents, and I say, listen, enroll your children in martial arts. Because that's one of the things I wish my parents had done. Yeah, I might be small, but with that martial arts and the training that they teach you, you can take somebody down. You can. Like the lady who tried to break my arm, I might have broken something on her. Because you're fighting for survival. And in today's life with cyberbullying, people are just even meaner. Like you can't even fight anymore. People are bringing guns and weapons and all of that. So you have to be careful. You have to be careful. And I tell people, my story is my story. How you might have handled it is differently. So don't sit here and judge me and say, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Or I wouldn't have handled it like that. Right, you wouldn't have handled it like that. But I handled it the way I did. And because of it, unfortunately, I had to go through it. But as one of the interviewers told me one time, she said, Tensie, you turned your scars into stars, right? You turned your scars into stars. And so what's funny is I have the last laugh now. Because many of the people who bullied me in school, who made fun of me, who said I wouldn't amount to anything in life, they can't stop commenting on all my pictures on social media. Oh my God, you're with Oprah. Oh my God, you're with Michael Ealy. Oh my goodness, you're with Taylor Swift. Oh my gosh, I always knew you'd make it. Really? You always knew I'd make it. So as Will Smith said, if you were absent during my struggle, don't be present during my success. And so a lot of the times these people, they now want to associate with me. When I was on Wheel of Fortune, I didn't realize I had so many cousins. Watch my cousin spin. Watch my cousin spin tonight. She's going to win big money. Watch my cousin. I'm like, wait, what? And then even guys didn't want to date me. And then guys like, oh my gosh, my beautiful friend Tensie, follow her. Every time I go home, someone's trying to ask me out. I'm like, nah, I'm good. So if you just stay true to who you are and you work hard, you will reap the benefits. And I don't do this all showingly, I just do it as marketing. But you never know who's watching you, and you never know who you will inspire. And so when I talk to these young minds, because they're so impressionable, I say surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with friends who support you, who believe in you. Because I wanted to fit in. There's a chapter in my book called Failing to Fit In. And the stupid thing is that when I failed, that's when I was popular. I was making Fs. I'm like, you made an F, Tensie? I made an F too, you go, girl. I'm like, what? But it was cool to be dumb. I just never understood that mentality. But thankfully, my parents, they stopped that really quick. They're like, no, ma'am, we did not send you to school to be failing. You need to stop this right now. But I thank God that I had parents who recognized something wasn't up and challenged me and encouraged me to be better. Because my dad would tell me, Tensie, these students who are bullying you, they're one day going to ask you for a job. They're one day going to want to work for you. I'm like, Dad, no, they're not. And I kid you not. People have said, Tensie, are you hiring? Oh, I'm trying to get into entertainment. Can you help me? Can you do this? Can you do that? And I'm very forgiving. I have no qualms, no animosity towards people. But I can love them from afar. Yeah. And that's exactly what I do. They can watch me shine, great, all the way back there. And then too, what I have found so interesting is that my main bullies, they have sent me messages on Facebook. And I will remind them, like, do you remember how you tried to break my arm in school? Oh, girl, I was just playing. It wasn't that serious. So even bringing it to their attention, they still just have amnesia or don't even want to apologize. Because if you apologize, okay, maybe we can move forward, but don't be in denial about it. Don't be in denial about it. So that's just a brief snippet of my story. I hope that you will support me and purchase a copy of my book. It's $20. I'll write an inspirational message, and you get a hug. All that for $20. That's a steal. And people say, why did you get a hug? I say, because when I did my first book signing, this lady said, can I hug you? And I'm a hugger, just like when Rebecca, right? Yes. She's like, I'm a hugger. I'm like, I'm a hugger too. So I just want to spread love, light, and positivity to all of you. And I just want to say thank you again for your time, for your attention, for making this interactive, for sharing your stories. And just know that I believe in you. I look forward to that 25th book coming out. I look forward to your book becoming a New York Times bestseller. Because when you envision it, and when you believe it and you put forth the work, you can achieve it. And so I encourage all of you all to continue to be great. And again, thank you for your time and attention. Thank you, Tensie.
The thing that shocked me in listening to you is that you said that you were suicidal at 16. I'm glad you changed your mind. But in that same context, you said you were in England at 16.
Yes, so how it was, at 16, it was the year of prom season. So April, what year is that, 2004. So April 2004, that was the time when I had contemplated suicide. But in England, that was of July of 2004. So I did not, what I'm trying to say is, the moment when I had that epiphany, like there's so much more to live for, and I was not going to give my bullies a satisfaction, that's when I just became an even more overachiever. I'm like, if you don't like me because I make good grades, because I wear what I wear, you're really not going to like me even more. So that's what kept me going, which opened up that opportunity for me in England in July of 2004.
So you didn't know that England was being proposed to you?
No.
Until after you decided
Yes.
to stick around?
Yes, that's correct. Yes. It just goes to show how just life can be. It can be a total 180. One day you think you're not going to be here, next thing you know, you're getting invited to England. So.
And why were you invited to England?
So there was a program called People to People, Student Ambassadors Program. It was founded by President Dwight Eisenhower to bring awareness to young kids about different cultures and customs. And so I was one of the people selected from my state of North Carolina to go. So I went to England, Ireland, Wales, and Scotland for a month and a half.
Wow.
Her hand was, I'll get to you.
Did any of your bullies ever come back and make a sincere apology?
No. Even the ones, like I said, that have messaged me on social media, and even when I brought it to their attention, they've never come back. They said, oh, it wasn't that serious. I was just joking. You're too sensitive. No, no one's ever come back and apologized. But what I can say, what I love talking to people that have read my book, one guy, after reading my book, didn't realize he was a bully and didn't realize how hurtful his words to the people he bullied. He went on Facebook and found all the people he had bullied and apologized to them.
Wow.
Yes. So again, power of words, you never know.
Oh, I just wanted to make a comment regarding People to People, because I sent my grandchildren
Oh, through that program?
to the People to People program. My granddaughter turned 13 in China, and my grandson was the youngest to ever go. He was 9 years old to Australia.
What?
And these were two grandchildren that was left with me at 2 and 4 years old, and they're now just graduating out of college.
Oh, congratulations to them. Yes, that program is very powerful. You learn a lot.
Yeah, I don't think it's still going on.
Oh, they don't do it anymore? Oh, that's such a disservice. It was. That prepared me for my trip. I've been to 24 countries and 6 continents. And And so that program really spearheaded my love for traveling.
Yeah, they travel too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, Eric.
So we were talking about outlining briefly.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't really tend to stick to that format of like that whole pattern or mosaic, as I would like to call it.
Mhm.
And so I would like to understand your writing process on how to just create what we have now.
Sure. So I definitely had an outliner because just as the young lady in the back said, she's a planner. I'm a planner too. And so I had an outline of what I wanted to say, of what I thought potential book chapters might be. But again, that's just an outline. I was just creating. There were times I was just typing. I had run-on sentences, words I had made up. I was like, what word am I trying to type here? Punctuation errors, but I just typed and wrote because I wanted to get the information from my mind onto the paper because I didn't want to miss out on the opportunity. And then that's when I went back and edited and re-edited. So yes, please have an outline, let that be a structure, kind of like a roadmap to you, but use your creativity. Let the words just flow and come to you and then go back and edit. Yes.
I was kind of curious, but during the time you were suicidal, did you have any close friends that you might have indulged the information to? Or?
No, I did not, because I was just really by myself a lot of the times, and I didn't want, in the ones that I did have close friends with, I didn't want to burden them with that. Like if I call them, what if they don't answer? What if they don't believe me? I was already rejected, what if they reject me again? And so when you read my book, you'll find out the mechanism of how I tried to do it. But I was like, I had just had a terrible day at school. And I was like, this is it. And so that's what kind of prompted me, but thankfully I didn't do it. But no, there was nobody that I just, when you get that low, you don't care. And I tell people all the time when I speak, I was like, never judge a book by its cover. Because when I learned that, what's that, comedian actor Robin Williams, when he hanged himself, I mean, the world was just in shock. He made so many people laugh. He just always seemed to be nice and good-hearted. But he was fighting some things, some depressions, different things he was going with internally. So I tell people, be kind. Because you just never know what someone's going through. And people who know me today, they're like, Tensie, you're so outgoing, you're so this, you're so that. Yes, that's true, but I also was struggling with depression and feeling like I wasn't worthy and not wanting to be here. So never judge. Just because you're smiling doesn't mean you're happy. You can put on a front. And one of the chapters in my book I call Wear the Mask. I wore a mask, a facade. When I would go to school, I would pretend I'm happy, smiling, but anyway, I was crying. I would cry myself to sleep at night. Yes, ma'am.
Did you give any signals, because you act like you didn't, no one knew, because you know how people say I should kill myself and they threaten and we don't hear?
Yeah, no.
They say it over and over and you ignore it.
No, I didn't give any signals. The one thing that my parents did notice is that I loved learning, but then I started to count down the days to when the school year ended. So 30 days until spring break, 50 days until the summer starts. And they're like, this isn't like you, what's going on? But no, I just kept everything
You didn't
inside.
you didn't say anything.
I didn't say anything. And that's why when I mentioned earlier, when my parents read my book, they're like, oh my gosh. And then they felt bad as parents. But I had to tell them, Mom and Dad, don't feel bad because you didn't know. I didn't tell you. I didn't put up the signs and symptoms because sometimes one of my good friends now, we connected through our anti-bully efforts, but her daughter committed suicide at 14 because of cyberbullying. She lives in Maryland. But the daughter hanged himself because he was cyberbullied. Then an 11-year-old girl took a gun and killed herself because she was cyberbullied. And so when I talk to these schools, I get in and I'm tough on the teachers and principals because sometimes like the parents will come to the school, nothing's done. They'll have evidence, hey, these are the people that are saying things about my daughter online. Well, kids will be kids, they need to grow to thicker skin, and then they commit suicide. And then they want to do something. So I'm like, nip it in the bud when you know about it because you could save a life. You can encourage, you could help someone. But that's how I approach it when I speak because I didn't grow up during the social media age, thank God. Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk generally about the differences in how boys and girls bully?
Yes, we were talking about that too. So as we were discussing, girls can be very catty. I'm sure many of you have seen the movie Mean Girls. And so girls just want to be mean, so they bully differently. They start off with saying things, I don't like your hair, I don't like your outfit, you're too small, you're too tall, you're too fat, you're too this. And it just goes long term, and then a lot of the times the girls don't report it. So the teachers, and again my parents, I didn't report a lot of the behavior until it became physical. Well, as opposed to guys, they'll rough you up, they'll push each other, they'll fight it out, and then a miracle, they're cool again later. So guys and girls handle it differently, and especially with women, it's also like emotional type of deal. Because I'm a female, so I know we can be so catty. Like if a guy likes another girl, but the girl likes that guy and he doesn't like her, then they'll start rumors. They'll disassociate themselves. They'll start making fun of them just because the guy that they like likes another girl. It's so catty. It's so sad, really. But that's how some of the girls do. That's how the guys do. They just fight it out, keep it moving. But girls, we hold grudges, we keep it going, and then sometimes, a lot of the times, we don't tell many people about it. Yes.
I know, because, being in your shoes, middle school was in hell, and, of course, like elementary school, reading like adult books like John Grisham, Stephen King, I got teased and bullied back because of that reason. But I know I got bullied by kids, so I don't know if this ever happened to you. You're also bullied by teachers.
Yes, if you read my table of contents, bullied by a teacher. My 5th grade teacher bullied me. Oh, wow, yeah, I was bullied by a teacher, and it's even more ironic because the teacher who bullied me was best friends with my mom at the school. So my mother was a librarian at the elementary school that I went to, and my teacher at the time, like my mom, before I was in her class, my mom and that teacher were BFFs. They would go home, they would have dinner together, my mom would watch her kids sometimes. It was just like a nice family. So, but again, insecurity really shows people's true colors. And so this teacher at 5th grade didn't know how to teach. So she was giving a math lesson, and she was saying how there are 14 ounces in a pound. Oops. Right. Oops. And I raised my hand and I said, and again, in my book, I never use people's real names because I'm not trying to be malicious. I'm just trying to tell a story, so I have pseudonames. So I say, Miss such and such is 16 ounces in a pound. I'm the teacher, I ought to know what I'm talking about. It's 14 ounces in a pound. Like, just went in on me in front of everybody. And I try to say, but I don't care what the book says, I'm the teacher. Okay. So she was insecure, she was wrong, and she didn't want to admit it, so then the rest of the year, she just had a field day with me. She would put me in the hallway just because. If I needed a few extra minutes on my test, she would give it to other students, but wouldn't let me have a few extra minutes. She would start making comments about me in class, belittling me in class, and it became so bad I got anxiety, and I would get sick going to her class. And my mom was like, what's going on? So my mom being, okay, such and such is my friend, let me talk to her. Well, that's Tensie's fault. No, I didn't say that. She's not the best of a student, so she's lying. No. So then my mother's friend, who claimed she was a woman of God, cursed my mom out because she brought this to her attention. So then my mom had to go to the superintendent, all the way up to the superintendent, to get me out of that class because the principal didn't want to do the work behind it. Oh, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of paperwork. This is a part of life. This is just going to have to deal with how to deal with difficult people. But my mom's like, her health is being affected. She's scared. She's being yelled at for no reason. So after like a month, I was finally pulled from that class. And it's funny because years later, I was in North Carolina in the capital city of Raleigh, and I ran into her. And as soon as she's like, oh, Tensie, how are you? You look so great, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, hi, yeah. She was like, oh, I'm about to go this way. You want to walk with me? No. Good seeing you. But even at 10 years old, and seeing her at 20, 10 years later, she still affected me. You don't forget things like that.
Because even at times like that, I just got fed up with her because I know this is not the right avenue to go through because especially being bullied because one day I just couldn't take it no more because she asked me if I was too big to be acting like an immature brat. So no offense when I say that, I asked her kindly she was too big for the church.
Oh, see.
I kind of dissed it back though because I just got tired of it. It's like fine. What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Exactly. And I'm not going to paint this picture like I said was I was a nice, good kid. But like you said, you get to a point. And one of the kids in high school, she kept making fun of my eyes. Your eyes are so big. Your eyes are so big. And I was like, well, at least the only thing big on me are my eyes. Too bad you can't say the same thing. Because she was a very big girl. She was like 300 pounds.
Yeah.
And you know, she called her mom to come get her, and she cried the rest of the day, telling me how mean I was.
So you bullied her?
But it gets to a point where you get so tired of just trying to just be quiet and be good that you just kind of go off.
We have time for one more question.
One more question? Okay. Yes.
Do you address the problem that gay people have?
Yes, I do.
In the
So
book?
I do. I don't address it because I didn't have personal experience with it, but I have a whole list of statistics in the back of my book, along with resources. And now, especially presenting in Ireland, I do a lot of research on people, lesbian, gay, queer communities who are bullied. So I have all types of statistics and resources to help people. And then working at USC, we have an LGBTQ office, and so I'll talk to some of those students, and they'll tell me some of the things that they are experiencing. So I address it that way.
Thank you.
And I know that was the last question, but I want to say one last thing. If you want to follow me on social media, everything is my name. So Facebook, Tensie Taylor, Instagram, Tensie Taylor, and then I have a Facebook fan page, Tensie J Taylor. And if you want to email me, I have my own personal email address. It's called ttaylorinquiries, INQUIRIES, @gmail.com. So follow my adventures, see where I'll be next, and then send me questions. If you have a project you're working on, or if you want me to endorse your book, I have like 2,300 followers on Instagram. A lot of them are celebrities. I will put you on my page because people did that for me. So thank you again. I'll be here for more books and questions, so thank you. Take a break.
Cheryl had one last, not so much question, but someone who actually has recently finished her book. Maybe just have one more.
Real quick, yeah, just so we can get out. Yes.
I just want to say that I did tell her that I read the book, but I have a feeling that most of us in here, over 28, which I'm 28, have gone through bullying growing up. Because I know I did, and I read that book and I just started smiling, you know, like, I can't believe I went through this. But back in the day, we call it, she's always picking on me. We never use the term bullied, I guess it never just came to us. So I always would cry or whatever, but I went through a lot of what she saw. And like I said, I think a lot of us have gone through that also.
Thank you, beautiful Barbara. Thank you. We're going